My father is a park ranger. He took me with him on the night shift. I should have listened to his rules. I wasn't much of a fan of national parks, especially because most of the time there's no service and the hikes are killing me. I'd rather enjoy nature by swimming in a lake or skiing. Like, why break your legs to end up to a high point just to see a random valley?
Couldn't agree more.
Not to mention the animals, they were everywhere, and the insects always got on my nerves. I never understood his love for the forest. I guess that was one of the reasons why he started telling me scary stories from his night shift. Looking back, they were obviously made up, but to younger me, they seemed believable. I used to think he was so brave for working the night shift in the forest. As I got older, I got into horror, and even if I didn't believe in his forest creatures anymore, I still liked the idea of spending the night in a small cabin in the middle of nowhere, just for that dose of adrenaline. When my father said he wanted to take me with him, I accepted immediately. I knew why he offered. Over the past years, our relationship had taken a big hit. I guess I was growing up and he didn't know how to handle that. He'd become a bit emotionally distant and seemed to repel any of my tries to open up to him. In return, I'd become uninterested and irritable. In the words of my mother, this would have been a fun way to bond, I guess. We arrived at the park around 9 p.m. His shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. His jeep pierced through the darkness and ventured into the woods. The headlights flashed the trees, turning them white against the black sky. I'd never been on this route, but again, my visits to the park were rare. We drove for a while. Most of the time, people underestimate the size of national parks. It took us an hour and a half to get to the cabin, which wasn't even in the heart of the forest. I saw it, one single trace of humanity in the middle of nowhere. A tiny wooden cabin with flickering light bulbs and
I love a wooden cabin.
I know.
I love
Haunted forest cabin?
cabins.
Yes. Before we got out of the car, my father stopped me. Listen, there's some instructions you need to follow here. I know it might seem unimportant, but they're crucial. Then he handed me a piece of paper, a list of handwritten rules. At first, they were ordinary. Don't go out alone in the forest. Don't leave food out. I thought the rest of the rules had been put there just to freak me out. Dad, I'm not 12 anymore. You can't freak me out with this shit. I'm not trying to. You wanted to come here with me, so act accordingly. Yeah, but what even is this? If you see a man without an arm, don't help him.
What?
We have all kinds of weirdos around here. Yeah, but what about this one? If the whistling is near you, it means they're far? My father smiled, but his eyes didn't. Look, some of these are added by superstitious fellas. It's more of a what if, and it's not going to happen to you. Okay. 1, don't go out alone in the park. Always have a working contact device. 2, don't leave marked paths, unless instructed to and or with proper equipment. 3, don't leave food out and lock the trash bins. 4, always keep on the whistle and the badge. 5, if you see a man without an arm, don't help him. 6, your family is not in here. Remember, there's no reason for you to hear their voices from outside. 7, lock your car doors even when you're driving. 8, check the marks on the trees. There's only 3 types of marks and they're all triangles, red, yellow and green. Other marks are not ours. Don't follow them. 9, if the whistling is near you, it means they're far. If it's far away, it means they're near.
Oh.
10, beware of dead blue. What's dead blue? I asked. My father sighed. You know when you're out in the woods, when you think what you hear is silence, but you realise there's dozens of sounds around you, from birds to crickets and leaves rustling? Yeah? Well, that's because there's no such thing as silence, absolute silence, never. There's always sound, movement, life. Dead blue is complete and utter silence. That's our code name for it. Death-inducing silence. It's unnatural. Right, well, when that happens, it won't. But if it does, he paused, staring at the steering wheel. Then his head turned to me. His eyes darted from mine to the window behind me. You leave. That being said, he got out of the car and I followed. The cabin was dusty and cramped. I couldn't understand how he'd spend 8 hours in here. He had a small TV, but it wasn't working, a desk and a mini fridge. You sit here all alone? I asked. Yeah. Why, does that freak you out? Well, no, but don't you get bored? Martin's post is 10 minutes away. Sometimes I drive over, but nothing really happens out here anyway. My spot is pretty far from the campsites. I just have to patrol from time to time, make sure no one wanders off into the night, but that rarely happens. This is one of the wilder areas, less explored. You haven't explored it at all? His eyes sparkled. Wouldn't be possible. So you don't know what's out there? No, that's the fun of it. You said you wanted adrenaline, and there you go. I nodded. He opened the mini fridge and threw me some juice. I'd mentioned I liked this orange juice brand once, and he'd remembered, and maybe our relationship wasn't so bad. We sat next to each other in the small cabin. Dad locked it. I'm not going to lie to you, most of the time I just sleep. Literally, nothing ever happens. So you really didn't see any creatures out there? Like the ones you told me about when I was little, I jokingly asked. No, the only creature out there is my manager, and I'd rather face a million cryptids than talk to him. I laughed. I leaned in to look out at the windows. I can't see anything. Just my reflection. Want me to dim down the light? Yeah. He did, and darkness crept inside the tiny cabin. The woods became more prominent, more vivid. The light made by the moon was unbelievable, and the stars were actually visible compared to the polluted city. The cabin was on a hill, propped up a tree, with a trap door and a ladder leading to our car. We could actually see above the tree line into the valley, so it's kind of like a treehouse.
I love that.
Love that. We spent the first hours talking. Somewhere around midnight, I began dozing off. I didn't want to, but I caved in. I fell asleep with my head on the desk. He woke me up. I rubbed my eyes in confusion. What time is it? I got a call from Martin. Who's Martin? I mumbled. The other guy in the area. He said he got a call from the campsite and someone's missing. We need to go search for him. We, as in us? Yeah. Listen, you'll stay in the back seat. I'm on the phone with Martin right now. I could hear Martin's muffled voice through the speaker. Wait, don't take the kid. Why not? He'll stay in the car. Paul, it could be one of those nights. We won't get out the car. You can't guarantee that. Well, I can't leave him here, alone in the dark. Pause followed. Look, Paul, I understand you wanted to do a take your kid to work day, but I don't know about this one. It could be dangerous. Look, we're literally just going to drive around for a bit. It's fine. Leave him in the cabin. Dad put his hand over one of the speakers, so I didn't understand what Martin told him. His eyes kept darting to the window behind me. He sighed. Martin will come and pick me up. You're staying here. Locked. Turn the lights off and wait for me to return.
No thanks.
It's going to take a minute and you'll be safe here. Wait, what? I'm not staying here alone. What did Martin tell you to change your mind? It doesn't matter. I'll return in, maximum half an hour.
No, thank you. No way.
Right?
Dad.
You can go back to sleep if you want, or I can call you and we can talk. I was afraid, truly afraid. I didn't want to show it, especially after I'd complained that nothing interesting happened around here, so I reluctantly agreed. My dad opened the trapdoor and climbed down the ladder, and then his face disappeared into the darkness. I saw Martin's car pick him up and drive away. Silence followed. I wish I'd been home in my bed. Instead, I sat stiff on the chair and I waited and waited. I began imagining the worst. What if they'd crashed? What if a bear had found them? I didn't want to let my fear get the best of me, but I thought about his legends and the set of rules, and I hoped the writers of those rules were just paranoid.
Oh no.
Around 2 a.m, I heard a knock on the trapdoor. I felt my chest tighten. Another knock followed. I wanted to respond, but something in me didn't allow me to. Then I heard my dad's voice. Kev? Open, it's cold out here. Echoed through the cabin. My eyes were dry from the lack of sleep, but my mind was fully awake. I stared at the phone, then at the trapdoor. Kev, open, please. I know you're there. I saw you at the window.
But how could he see that's a treehouse?
Turned off the light completely. I don't know why I had this urge, but if my dad could see me from the window, well, anyone could, or anything. And I didn't like to be on display like that. I don't have a key. It locks from the inside. Shit, yes. How was it? Did you find him? Yeah, we did. He was drunk. We helped him return to his friends. It could have been a lot worse. As I was talking to him, I searched for the keys in the drawer. It was strange because I hadn't heard anyone climb the ladder.
Oh.
And I hadn't seen Martin's car drive my dad back to the cabin. How did you get here without Martin? What do you mean? Open up, Kev. I'm freezing. Answer the question. He did drive me here. I didn't see any headlights. Look, they were off. We didn't want to draw attention of the animals. Bullshit. I pulled out the crumpled piece of paper. Number 6. Your family is not here. Remember, there's no reason for you to hear their voices from the outside. My hand was shaking so bad I could barely grab the phone. I skimmed through my contacts. Cade, Connor, Dad. I called him. The phone was ringing, yet no sound came from beneath the trap door. My dad picked up. Everything okay? In the blinding darkness of the cabin, surrounded by the howling wind, I toned my voice down to a whisper. Dad, something's out there pretending to be you. A long pause followed. When he spoke, his voice was trembling. Don't open the door.